Alright, welcome back to Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. In this video we are starting the first real court cases when they take off the training wheels. And we are introduced now to another one of my favorite characters, Miles Edgeworth. I know I've said this like every single time we meet a new character, but, you know, Edgeworth really is one of my favorite characters. If Phoenix isn't my favorite character, it's probably Edgeworth. So, we have met a lot of my favorite characters in this game already. We've met Gumshoe, we've met Phoenix, speaking of Gumshoe, we've met Edgeworth, we've met Maya, we've met Mia. So, there's a lot of characters already, and that's the great thing about this series, is that, I've said this before, but they've got so many great characters. Like, this series would suck if it wasn't for, you know, this is a point I'm probably going to be driving in quite a bit, but if it didn't have characters that you remembered, you know, even when you're not playing the game, you know, it wouldn't be a good game. It wouldn't be a good series if the characters weren't interesting and memorable. So, most usually, in these games, the first person to testify in a court hearing is actually going to be Gumshoe. Because he's, as I said in the last video, or whenever we met him, he's kind of an idiot. He doesn't really know what he's doing. So, he lies a lot by accident just because he's stupid. So, he is usually the first person you're going to, you know, have to tackle. See, even though Mia is gone, we're still gonna get help from Maya right here. Again, now this is something I'd like to press, no pun intended, is that your first time playing this game, I think it would be great to press every single thing that the witness says. I know what I'm doing, because I've played this game a bunch of times, but I would suggest pressing every single issue. Because, I said this before, I'll say it again, you can get new testimony added sometimes if you press. Sometimes they'll slip up, sometimes you'll get just fun, dialogue. You know, so you don't need to get some of this, but sometimes I think it helps your understanding of the characters, and sometimes they'll give you cute little moments and stuff like that. So, press everything your first time through. Like that, we wouldn't have gotten that line otherwise. But yeah, sometimes Phoenix will say, oh, maybe I shouldn't press everything. Like that, that was the shortest press of all time. Yeah, I think if you looked up the word pink in the dictionary, I think you'd get a picture of April May. Yeah, like there. We wouldn't have gotten this to happen if we didn't press. And surprisingly, though, Gumshoe's testimony didn't really have any contradictions in it. I think that might have been Gumshoe's most solid testimony, like, of all time. So this is one of those things that you kind of need to read the court record in order to understand what the contradiction is. If you've read the court record and you've read all the files you have, such as like the autopsy report, stuff like that, this becomes a very obvious contradiction. Like, your first time through, this might be a little bit like, oh, what should I do? But we're going to want to go ahead to the testimony that Gumshoe said, where he said that before she died, the victim wrote the name. So, right now, let's look at our court record. Let's actually take a look at the autopsy report. It says, death was instantaneous. And yet Gumshoe says, before she died, the victim wrote the killer's name. If the death was in fact instantaneous, that would be impossible.
Objection!
I don't know, sometimes I think this song is actually better than the cornered theme. Like, the cornered theme is a little more satisfying to listen to when you're really getting someone, you know, cornered. But this song, I think, is actually a little bit better. So, obviously, we got it the day after the murder. But, this is exactly now the kind of dirty trick that Prosecutor Edgeworth is going to pull. That's most likely not true. If you remember when we were talking to... who was it? I think it was Gumshoe in the last video. He was talking about Edgeworth, and Phoenix said that sometimes there's some back alley deals and forged evidence. So, who knows if we can really trust him. I am so curious to see what happens when you press I'm a sham. I don't know what happens there. So, now the autopsy report is updated. That'll happen sometimes when new facts are found. A previous item will be updated to reflect those facts. So that kind of really didn't win us any points, but I feel like it didn't really lose us any either. Well, obviously in the game we didn't lose any points, because there are actually points to lose. That was what we were supposed to do, but I feel like in a court case that probably didn't do one thing, you know, one way or the other. So this is why I was saying before, many times in the Ace Attorney series there will be women that are called to the stand that will use their feminine wiles to distract everyone. Like Phoenix just said, she's captured the heart of every man in the court. It was like 9 o'clock, and I looked out the window. The one attacking was a mousy girl. This one I kind of have a problem with. The way that you uncover the lie here is not great. Sometimes they're a little like, what the hell? Like, how is it supposed to guess that? Oh my god. Yes, of course I'm going to cross-examine the witness. It's my job. Thank you. So this is another matter in which you're going to want to press something. You're going to want to press this one right here when she says mousy looking girl. Again, this is like one of those things that I'm glad you don't have to present anything here, because this would be really annoying to figure out. It's almost impossible to figure out what the lie here is if you had to present something here. But you essentially object here. You know, this testimony stinks. It's a load of barnacles. So you're lying is what we want to say. Because we know that she probably did see, because she had a good view from her window. Now, is she lying about what she saw is the real question. Like, this is the big point that we're making here is you describe her stature instead of her clothes. If we had to guess that on our own, this would be, like, impossible, I think, personally. So I'm glad that this is something that essentially just happens in the conversation by itself. Like, Phoenix just says this, you know, you just select, you're lying, and stuff like that. Now, sometimes the judge can be a little incompetent, but when it matters the most is, you know, he comes through. He's not just a big dumb idiot all the time. He is most of the time, but not every single, you know, every single minute of every single court case is he just a big bumbling buffoon. You know, he will get tough with the witnesses when need be. So once again, there's something off with her testimony. This is something that we've already done. You know, we've already presented this evidence very similarly when she says it was a clock. And again, there's absolutely no way she knows it's a clock. And now, if you'll remember, in the beginning of the case, Mia stated to Maya that she had to take out all the gears from the clock, and at the time of the murder, it was not in fact active. So, I mean, just, I don't know, keep that in the back of your head. I don't know, maybe that's important, maybe it's not. So, it couldn't have rung is what you need to choose there. Even though, you know, the first one sounds like it's it's good. And yeah, you put here it's empty because that's what Mia said. We're gonna have to show evidence to this, though. I don't know why we can't just show the clock, but we do have evidence that it is, in fact, empty. Oh, we are showing the clock. Why do I not remember that? We still have to show something else, I think, though. I feel like you don't really need to explain this. Like, the clock is empty. That's that. Edgeworth, I think, is like the perfect opponent for Phoenix. The two of them, it's like one really big cat and mouse game, you know? They both are always at each other's throats, like, right after another, like, Phoenix shows good evidence, Edgeworth immediately is like, nope, that's wrong, and then vice versa. Oh, Edgeworth, you're wrong. Because we have the cell phone conversation that Mia and Maya had.